Well, Merry Christmas. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about colostrum. Colostrum is the first milk from a mammal, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of golden in color. It's quite contrasted to actual milk, which is more white in color like this. So I'm just going to walk you guys through our processing of colostrum, and then I'll explain why it's so important later on. So what I'm using right now is a Brix measuring system, which measures the micro and macronutrients in colostrum, and we're aiming for between 22% and 50%, and it's 27% right now, so that's really good. So if the colostrum is tested good, we'll take one of these 4-liter or 2-liter bags, and we will write the percentage of the colostrum, we will write the date, and then I guess one tiny little cartoon that my mom and my sister actually really like to do, so that's why I do it too. At this point, everything is ready to go, so I pour the colostrum into the bag. This is what it's going to be pasteurized in, and it will not be opened until it's going to be fed to the calf. This ensures that the colostrum stays completely sterile and safe for the calf to consume. So now we're going to bring this colostrum over to the pasteurizer and we're going to turn it on. This is a process that takes a few hours because if you heat colostrum up too quickly, then it is just going to turn into pudding. So that's why it's really handy to have this pasteurization process just in a machine so that you can't make any mistakes. And when all of that is finished, we will either put the colostrum in the fridge or in the freezer for later use, and this can stay good for a few months in the freezer. So now that you have seen how we process our colostrum, how we test it, I'm going to tell you kind of what it is and why it's so important for not just calves but most mammals to receive when they're born. So colostrum is a very nutrient-packed kind of first milk that is produced by a lactating mama to give to her baby. It's full of macro and micronutrients and immunoglobulins, which is basically so that we can have a passive transfer from the dam to the offspring so that they have a start for immunity. It just contains a lot of components that influence growth, development, and immune function in neonatal mammals. So basically, in calves and goats and other animals, if they don't get colostrum, they are far more likely to be sick and die. I know that they are very immunocompromised because of the thickness of the placenta. So in humans, the placenta is very thin. So some of our immunities get passed down to the baby in utero, but for animals, like cows for example, the placenta is very thick. So any immunities that could otherwise pass through a thinner placenta to the baby are not passed through to the baby. So even through the umbilical cord, it's not passed through. So they're just severely immunocompromised when they are born because there's no way for them to get these immunities, which is why colostrum is so important. And then what's even more important is how quickly you feed a calf, because a calf, when it is born, is able to directly absorb its first meal through the intestines, and a lot of these nutrients and immunoglobulins will pass directly to the bloodstream, which is why it's so important that that first meal be colostrum and not something like manure, because manure is full of bacteria and other nasty stuff that will severely compromise the calf in the long run. So for us on this farm, we feed 4 liters of colostrum as soon as possible. They're actually a lot more likely to receive the correct amount of colostrum with humans feeding them. For dairy cattle, I know for beef cattle, it's a whole different story because they're far more instinctually able to navigate through life. This is more for dairy cattle in this video. And our colostrum has also been pasteurized so that if there are any harmful bacteria that somehow made it in between, you know, cow udder to milk out to the pail that it gets transferred to, then those are also killed off. And yeah, that's kind of why colostrum is so freaking important to be feeding as soon as possible and as sterile as possible. So we have a lot of calves now, and we have definitely seen a difference between pasteurizing our colostrum and feeding non-pasteurized colostrum in the past. This is just what works for us, and this is why we do it. So I hope that helps shed a little bit more understanding on the subject of colostrum and why it's so important. Come on, buddy. You gonna get up and say hi? Yeah? There you go. So Maeko had her baby. She actually had 2. She had twins. And this guy is very tiny. Very small little guy. Like, he comes up to just above my knee. He had an even smaller sister, but she was dead on arrival, so that was unfortunate. But she was honestly really small, so she probably wouldn't have made it anyways. We've got a little steer now, and he's looking pretty good. Hey, cutie? And Maeko herself is doing well too, despite having had twins. So yeah, we've got a loudmouth schnook over here. He was born yesterday. And then we had another pair of twins born yesterday, and these are 2 bull calves. So our newest room has 5 pens filled, and they're all boys. Not a great heifer streak going on here. We go potty right away. So I have Pilgrim out here. Everyone is very noisy today. I have Pilgrim out here in the group pen just so she can socialize with her siblings a little bit. But I think she does feel better knowing that there are more goats around, so that's nice. But you can see the difference. Like, Flicka used to be smaller. Don't jump on her, come on. And now it's Pilgrim that's the little one. And I have her in a little vest just to keep her a bit warm. Normally I would never do this because goats need their coats to be able to fluff out in order to insulate themselves, but she really just does not have enough body fat to be able to do that, to keep herself warm enough, regardless of if she can fluff her coat. I got everybody trying to jump on me here. So that's why she is wearing the sweater, but I normally wouldn't do that for a healthy goat.